Hey, Pleasant View family, I am so glad to be before you again. We want to give you some updates. This whole journey has been a bit like a roller coaster ride. It has lots of bends and turns and big hills to climb, and it's been all over the place as we've been coming back together. And it's been that way for us since way back in March. And yesterday, our governor came up and asked us to wear our mask in a more public setting more often, not just in here and there and yonders, but that is impacting even here. And so what we want to do today is give you here's what we need from you starting this Sunday. And so I want to walk you through how we're going to deal with that and make plans for that. So let me walk you through that, and this may help you understand kind of what we're doing. And it's really important is this. If you're coming in here on Sunday morning, the coming in and going out, we ask you to wear your mask. Any of the common areas that you might just not be able to social distance, we're going to ask you to wear a mask. Once you're in here, if you can keep a 6-foot distance thing that we've been already doing in here, a lot of what we're doing, we've already been doing. So this isn't new. But in here, if you can keep a 6-foot distancing thing, then you can take off your mask. If you want to leave it on, certainly understand and bless that. But if you can't keep that, then we're going to ask you to leave it on for the duration of the service so that we can help those who are wanting to come. So we want you to be aware of that. If for some reason you don't have a mask, like I've just never had a mask, I've never had one, we will have them available for you as you're coming in. So that will make it easier for you on that. So just be aware of that. Something that's been mindful to me that we have talked about as staff. We've been doing this for about 4 weeks. And what we've discovered is about 40 to 45% of our people aren't coming yet because there's some uncomfortableness, there's some uncertainty, there's some apprehension about being in here. And what we want to do as a staff and as a church is to eliminate some barriers. My staff and myself, we've been wearing a mask every Sunday in here when we are socially interacting with people to help maybe alleviate any kind of barrier for that. And so we've been doing that. And we're going to ask you to jump in with us to help that. Because here's what I want you to begin thinking about right now. Who's your one? We've been using that as a way to invite somebody to church, but I want to make it more personal today. Who's the one person that you think, man, I would really like them to be there on Sunday? And if I wear a mask, will that help them? I'm going to wear a mask because I want as many of our Pleasant View family to be here and to remove any barriers for them. Wearing a mask is not going to kill me. It hasn't yet. I've been doing it for 4 weeks. And so you can help me and jump in with me and do what several of us have already been doing. And so jump in with us that. The other thing I want to say is this, is that Jesus modeled for us what it means to be a servant. He grabbed a basin of water and a towel, and he did what was considered the lowliest job with his disciples. He washed their feet. That job was relegated to a servant, to somebody with a very low position. And Jesus lowered himself to what was considered a low position to wash his disciples' feet because he loved them, because he wanted to model something to them that they needed to get as the early church was getting ready to launch. And then he said these words in John 13, 34, and 35. If you've grown up in church, these are going to be really familiar verses, and they are powerful for us as a church. And he said this, "A new command I give you, that you love one another." It's easy to love people when it's convenient. It's hard to love people when it's not. And then he went on and he said this. He says, "As I have loved you, you are to love one another." He says, "As I have demonstrated you, as I have washed your feet, do this for other people." And then he went on and he finished it with this, because he knows that what we do in this setting echoes to our community around us. And he said this. He said, "By this, all people will know that you are my disciple if you love one another." People are going to know how we respond in here. Social media has given us a very broad explanation of how everybody thinks about this. But our calling is to Jesus and to reflect him. A number of years ago, probably about 20 years ago, there was a powerful movie that came out called Saving Private Ryan. And it was powerful because of this. A group of soldiers gathered and said they were willing to go behind enemy lines to look for a brother. His other brothers had been killed in combat, And this group of men went behind enemy lines to save one. One was worth it. And they did. They went behind enemy lines to get the one. And so I ask you to this. I'm not asking you to go behind enemy combat lines. I'm asking you to say, isn't one worth it? If 45% of our people aren't coming because they're not comfortable yet, put politics aside and say, that one person is worth it. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to personalize it. Between now and Sunday, I want you to think about one or two people. I've already got mine in my heart, in my head, that I hope will come because of what we're doing. I'm doing my part, and I'm going to ask you to do your part. The last thing I'll say is this. Bob Goff wrote a devotional, and I'm walking through it through this year, and he said something very profound. He said something about this. He said, the church can't be a unicycle. Now, I don't know if you know anything about a unicycle. First off, I don't ride unicycles, and if I did, it would be very painful. But a unicycle is designed for one. He said the church needs to be like a bus. There's got to be a seat for everybody. There's got to be a seat for everybody. And so I'm asking you to think about there's got to be a seat for everybody. When we think unicycle, we think all as it is, it's about me. And so I'm asking you to join me wearing a mask to help those, the 45% who aren't coming, because I want to eliminate that barrier because they're part of this church too. And so we're going to do this together. We've got to do this together to love one another, to model it because the community is watching. And we bring glory and honor to God when we love one another. So please join me in this. I'll see you Sunday. I'll be wearing a mask, and I hope you will be too. God bless.